Welcome back to another edition of the podcast, and tonight is our Game Week 13 National League preview and predictions. Of course, we'll be giving you the latest, providing you with all the latest news surrounding the National League, giving our thoughts on the latest news as well, as a lot has happened over the last week. We've had a manager's actually left the club. We've had a new cup that's been introduced, and we'll be talking about that game week and how well that's kicked off so far. And obviously, we've had sides that have also strengthened in depth over the last week, and we'll be discussing that before getting on to our National League predictions. Before I do that, though, as you can all tell, I'm with my co-host tonight, Paul Franklin. Paul, firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Luke. Happy that I'm able to do this podcast about a loss on Saturday down at the Shay.
Yeah, and that's a good point for you because it's only the second time you've actually managed to take points away from the Shay since you got promoted. So yeah, good point for you.
I think it's the first time we scored 2 goals against Halifax actually in one game. So yeah, the last time I was at the Shay, I think do we get drubbed 5 or 6-0 in midweek? So yeah, it was could have been even better. After I didn't end up getting to the game, but I've seen the highlights and obviously had a debrief off several people, and the officials weren't the best. But it's one of those things. We've succumbed to a 90th minute goal and dropped points where I think we have to start learning to hold on to this, because it's going to be damaging to our chances of survival. We've played 5 games now out of 11 and let a goal in the 80th minute plus to cause us to drop points from possible 11 through to 3. So you got to look at that and think they've got to start learning a lesson somewhere along the line. You can't keep giving goals away in those periods of time when you work so hard to try and be in the game or get into a winning position. But we'll see how they go. We got Gateshead away at the weekend, and that should be a good one. Should be a good one for us, managers. We'll talk about it in a minute, I suppose. But to play Gateshead with no manager has got to be probably one of the best things to do at the present time. So we'll see how that goes.
I think what's interesting about Wealdstone, when you look at their start to the season, it's not been the ideal start, but you look at some of the points that they've picked up so far, and the teams against. You've got Forest Green away from home. Nobody would have particularly thought you'd be able to get anything from that game. Halifax away, I think it's always seen as quite a difficult place to go. I think Wealdstone, I think they actually won there the first season they got promoted, but apart from that, they've got quite a bad record against Halifax away. And then also points against Southend. But if you actually look at those games, particularly the Southend and Halifax one, although it's a point gained, I think you probably look at both games and think it's 2 points dropped. And that's funny saying, going to somewhere like Halifax, which is quite a difficult place to go. Not many sides win there, and being able to get a point there, to be disappointed that you drop points just shows how Wealdstone are clearly improving as the season's going on. And I think you'll be hoping that if you can cut out these mistakes later on in games that Wealdstone keep making, where perhaps they're switching off, Wealdstone can actually climb the way up the table. Because something I will notice, and this is compared to Ebbsfleet's start overall, they're not getting thrashed in games, are they? They're staying in the games. I think that's the only game I can recall, which was a bit of a Barnet deserved to win, but I don't think 3-0 actually represented how the game went. Apart from that game, on paper, I don't think there's any massive thrashing, is there?
No, there's not. Okay, I mean, we got a last-minute goal to get a draw at Forest Green, and that's the least you can expect from a football team who's trying to chase a game, is to try and get goals in the last minute, and that's what you expect from a team. What you don't expect from teams regularly is to be in winning positions or being in a position where you're drawing against a tough team away from home and giving goals away and dropping points. We gave a 98th minute goal away against Hartlepool. We gave a 90th minute goal away against Halifax. Yeah, how many people score 2 goals against Halifax or Hartlepool away and don't come away with a win? So it's really frustrating. And yeah, is it naivety, Luke? Is it lack of quality? Is it lack of concentration? Is it a mixture of everything? I know we had 10 men against Halifax, but then you can still you'd hope to think you could defend. If you defended for 15, 20 minutes with one less player, what's another 1 or 2 minutes? And listen, that's easy for us to say sitting on the sidelines, but at the same time, you're thinking, come on, you got something to hold on to here, and then you let another goal in. it must be hurting for the squad and the players, because they do work very hard to get in those positions, and then they let themselves down. And listen, they're not horrendous. There's quality there. Like you said, they're not getting thrashed. I think Barnet were very comfortable in their 3-0 win, and they're always going to be, because they're one of the top teams, if not the top team in the league. But you're right, we're competing in every game, and I think we've just got to take that almost as a little bit of an advantage and a positive, and go, right, we need to get, let's start converting these into points we can have.
I think from a Halifax fan's perspective of the game, unfortunately, it's the first game at home that I've missed this season. Hopefully it'll be the last that I miss at the Shea. It's disappointing because you go to somewhere like Braintree, you lose there late on, and then you drop points to Wealdstone, who, when you look at it and you look at Wealdstone's current position, I think they were 23rd at the time prior to kickoff. You should be looking at that game being at home. We've done well against the so-called better sides who are far up the table at the moment. These are the games that we should be winning at home, and dropping points to Wealdstone and losing to Braintree's a little bit disappointing. And it just feels like all that hard work with some of the points and wins that we've got so far this season mean nothing, because you look at the likes of beating Barnet at home, drawing to Oldham at home and getting a point against them, and could have actually gone on to win that game. For me, overall, it's just disappointing that you look at those results and then you look at the likes of dropping points to Wealdstone, losing to Braintree away from home. And it's quite hard. I think it's the way we set up. Perhaps it'll probably suit us against the better teams. But again, when the sides who are going to put 11 men behind the ball and try to catch you on the break, and you've got to try break them down, that's where I perhaps feel that we're going to struggle. But a lot of people who've come in the live chat, we're going to have a look at that very shortly. Something I will ask as well everyone to do, please, tonight, if I can find it here, is please like the podcast. Liking gets it out to more people. And also subscribe. We've got over 2,000 subscribers now. So thank you to everyone that has joined the journey with us. I'm sure there'll be one or two of you in here who haven't subscribed yet, so please do that. We're live every single Thursday from 9 p.m. And we've also got some interviews planned coming up for you guys to listen to. That's another thing that brings me on to the next topic I wanted to talk about was if you become a member, you will get early access to these interviews, and you can also use custom emojis for your club in the live chat. So if you're an Aldershot fan, you can use an Aldershot badge. If you're a Halifax fan, you can use a Halifax badge. So it's quite a cool little perk there if you're into all that. And like I've mentioned as well, you'll get early access to interviews as well in the future. Finally, please check out our sponsors, Cards Accepted. If you use the link in the description, you will get 50% off your card machine. No contracts or monthly fees. That's the admin out of the way. We'll move on from that now. I think one of the major talking points of tonight is, of course, the managerial, well, I would say change, but there hasn't been a change yet. But the managerial departure, perhaps I'll put it like that, in Rob Elliott, who's left Gateshead. He's left the club after winning the FA Trophy with the side. Managed to have them in a 6th place finish last season. And considering all the adversity and the amount of players that left the side during that season, that was a very impressive finish for Gateshead. And then so far this season leaves the side in 5th place with a game in hand, and if they did win that game in hand, they would go up to 2nd. How influential has Rob Elliott been at Gateshead over the past 12 months or so?
Oh, he's done a superb job, hasn't he, Luke? Because they had every excuse to sort of drop away, having lost Mike Williamson, who had done another fantastic job. Not just creating a squad that could compete in the National League, but creating a squad that could possibly win things and get promoted. And along with playing a brand of football that everyone was very impressed with. And to be able to sort of say like some Macaulay Langstaff, who's now playing in the Champ for Millwall, and started out playing there under Williamson or for Williamson. So it was so, it could have been really easy for them to have excuses about Williamson going and that sort of changeover and that bedding in period. But I think what Gateshead have done very well, and I suppose a little bit like when you watch when Wealdstone had Stu Maynard when Dean Brennan left, is that continuity of the football philosophy, as well as the players understanding who that person is. clearly Rob Elliott was quite keen to be his own man and be a manager rather than follow Mike Williamson and be an assistant, which was great for Rob Elliott. And he's proved himself more than capable. And like we said last sort of Christmas time, January, February, wasn't it? We were talking about Gateshead pushing on and becoming a team that were going to be really feared in the promotion race. And then they lost all their players purely because of their success, not because of their failures. The players that they had on loan were doing so well that they ended up back at their parent clubs and getting sold or going further up the EFL in better loan moves to them. Or, of course, Mike Williamson took a couple of players, both in that period of time. And again, they could have easily had that excuse of, oh, well, it's a new manager and the squad's been decimated. But they went again. And, to win the FA trophy and to not be able to play in the playoffs for no other reason than that administrative off-the-field issues, whatever it was, fantastic. And they went again this year, didn't they? They lost some players in the summer and they started off absolutely on fire. So he was a massive part of it. This is going to be a really tough appointment for Gateshead because who now follows him internally if they follow that same sort of process? Who can they now go and get who play that type of football that these players that he's had over the last 2 or 3 years are so used to this style that you need to go and find exactly why Rob Elliott's left. Crawley have employed him because he plays like Scott Lindsay done. Scott Lindsay's been employed by the MK Dons because MK Dons played like Mike Williamson did. They got Mike Williamson because they played like Luke. There's that knock-on effect of all these. Swansea took Luke Williams rather from Notts because they played the same way. Wealdstone lost Stuart Maynard. So there's these teams that follow a certain pattern. How many more coaches can they keep finding that play this way? And that's going to be the real challenge for Gateshead, I think.
I think the positives that Gateshead can take from this situation is at least they've had to deal with this in the past, so they know what to do. And it was successful in the past when Mike Williamson actually left. Rob Elliott did a fantastic job at Gateshead, as the points you've just mentioned there. And you'd like to think, hopefully, the foundations are still there at Gateshead. They've got the same owners. At the moment, they've still got the same playing squad, and they're a close group. I think that's clear. Everyone can agree with that. With everything that the squad's been through, what they had to deal with last season, it's only made them stronger. And you may feel that this could perhaps make them stronger. Of course, Ben Clark, Jacob Butterfield and Greg Ollie are taking over for the time being until they appoint a permanent manager. If one of those does become the permanent manager, that is something that we're going to later see in the season. And it's a good opportunity for those to get into coaching. You look at Jacob Butterfield. He's played as high as the Championship before, got a lot of experience. Greg Ollie's been injured for the entire season, so it gives him an opportunity to get involved as well with the side. So for me, overall, maybe it's because of what happened last time and what Gates had actually managed to do, and they managed to just be able to cope with what happened and become stronger. I've got a slight feeling that they might actually be okay. In terms of potential managers that they could bring in at the moment, this is the difficult thing because you look at Kevin Phillips, for example, someone who's been rumoured with a side. The only reason anyone is putting him putting him with the Gateshead job is because he's local to that area after leaving Hartlepool. There's nothing behind it to say that he'll suit Gateshead in his style of football. And this is how many managers at this level are capable of producing that style of football, and I can't name a single manager. So maybe if Gateshead were to get a permanent manager in, then they're going to have to look at getting someone from the academy setup of a higher division. I know Joe Pope from Off the Line blog put a thread together on Twitter mentioning someone at Brighton, I believe. I'll be honest, I haven't heard of him, but he put those two together and thought it'd be a good fit for them. For me, at the moment, the only thing I could suggest is keeping the managers who they've got at the moment in Ben Clark, Jacob Butterfield and Greg Ollie. I think that's probably the best thing that I would do for them at the moment. And then maybe in the future, if it's not working, that's when you look to appoint a permanent manager. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Would you stick with the lads who've been given the role, or would you be looking to sign someone permanently?
No, I think they've got to give the opportunity to to those that are already there. If they wish to do it, they might turn around and suggest that they do it on a short term until they find a permanent manager, because actually Butterfield is still playing. Does he want to be distracted by coaching, etc.? So I think you've got to give them the opportunity, because it did work so well. Rob Elliott, because Rob Elliott, I could be wrong, wasn't made permanent straight away. He got his opportunity, proved it, wanted to do it, and took it on, and he's now an EFL coach. So it was a bit more damaging, I suppose, with Gateshead, because the whole coaching setup went. All three of them went. So Gateshead have literally got no one, like you said. So I think you're right. The stability is there. They're a sensible football club, aren't they? They've shown that over the last few years with the players that they've purchased or loaned in and then sold and made money on and developed. So they're a good football club. They're a sound, on a sound basis. I think they'll make decisions that are pragmatic and thought out. There's not going to be any knee-jerk reactions from them. And like you said, there's always going to be those sort of names banded about, the likes of Kevin Phillips. It was Inigo Calderon, who Joe had mentioned from Brighton, who was a Brighton defender, who's their under-18s coach. And being a Spaniard, is probably very technical. I should imagine that, Brighton, as we know, are another club who have lost coaches upon coach and forever find a new coach and lose players upon players and forever find new players. So, Inigo Calderon will be familiar with that. And that's an outside shout from Joe, because not only is it, he's coming from a Premier League academy to the National League as a head coach, he's going right from the south coast to the northeast. That's got to be some sort of enticement. I think Tom Williams mentioned Craig Mahon as well as another potential who's obviously ex Middlesbrough, etc. So listen, there'll be people who want that job, Luke. That's without a shadow of a doubt. There'll be people out there that will be desperate for that role. Gateshead have just got to no knee-jerk reactions, take their time, and I think you're right. They'll be okay as they are at the moment, because they're so stable and because those lads know what they're doing. And let's just hope that they don't play too well Saturday and Wealdstone gain some points out of them.
You'll be hoping so anyway. But no, the point that you made there about people actually wanting the job, and this just shows how far Gateshead have come as a club overall. If you speak about them about 3 or 4 years ago, who would want the Gateshead job, you'd be struggling to think of any people who'd actually be wanting to firstly move up there where it's so cold, and then actually manage a side like Gateshead, who I don't think are one of the most attractive clubs, or they weren't at the time. They certainly are now with the way that they play. I do apologise. We're nearly 20 minutes in and I haven't even looked at the live chat yet. I'm sure we've had a fair few Gateshead fans come in and give their thoughts. We've had Bob, who's come and said, evening all, welcome to the stream, Bob. Colin's coming in, who I believe is a Gateshead fan, and said devastated. John's come in and said good evening. Caroline, who of course is a member's put good evening as well. Mr. Luke, probably the most reliable listener at the moment, who's a Gateshead fan. Hello, gents. Absolutely gutted about our managerial departure from us. We have Paul's Wealdstone on Saturday to try and cheer us up from that. You know the drill, lads. No pressure whatsoever. Christopher's come in and actually said, good evening, Paul. Heat fan here. Big one for Wealdstone Saturday. You travelling up for the match?
No, I'm not actually. Unfortunately, as I said before, I've got 3 children and they're all football mad. So one's 10, one's 14 and one's 17, and they all play in youth football on a Saturday. So I can never normally get out of things until around about lunchtime. So those sorts of longer journeys are a little bit too tough for me to be able to make. But I do wish to make Gateshead a trip for me at some point. But unfortunately, I won't be. Hopefully, I'll get to see it on National League TV if I get back from the kids' football on time.
Got Colin, who's also said, Paul, I'd noticed you've dropped points later on. Your luck will change.
No, I'm not sure. Yeah.
And then we've also Talk Ball TV, who believes a York fan, has said York goalless versus Eastleigh. Yeah, one of those. I don't think many people would have predicted a goalless draw between York and Eastleigh, 2 of the highest scorers in the division so far. Probs should have put them away, but no shame. Eastleigh look solid. Mm-hmm. Robbie's also a channel member, said, "Evening, Luke and Paul. It's crazy how many blows he'd have suffered in the last 12 months alone and still prevailed. That said, there is a limit to just how many good coaches they can lose." Yeah, that's a good point to make as well. And this is what we're saying when we're talking about them. They're going to have to be niche with the next appointment. They can't just get the same old names out of the hat again, like a few sides do in this division, because it's not often very successful. And I believe overall Gates said the board won't work like that. They're not going to work in the way of thinking, let's get a Kevin Phillips, or let's go to Scarborough, a Jonathan Green, and get him in. I personally feel that they're going to go down the academy route if they are to appoint someone who's not already inside the club at the moment. But for me, if I was to predict what was to happen with Gates, and I genuinely just feel that Ben Clark, Jacob Butterfield and Greg Ollie will probably take over for the time being, and I think probably throughout the season as well. And if they're successful like Rob Elliott was, I could see one of them being the permanent manager as well. We've also had Jack, who's an Oldham fan, has said, "Oldham, the only team to score in every game so far. Need more goals, I thought." Well, there's you talk about scoring in every single match, yes, but how many goals are you scoring in those matches? And I don't want to be negative about Oldham, because I think overall so far Oldham have done very well. But there's times where you're not putting teams away still. If there was one critic that I would have about Oldham, if you look at the amount of goals that you've scored compared to Barnet and York, what I'm saying is if Oldham want to be in the title race, they need to be producing the same numbers as those sides. And it's evident that you've not produced that many amount of goals. Yes, defensively you're solid. I'm not saying you're poor going forward. I think you're pretty strong, but you're not to the same level as a York or a Barnet or even an Eastleigh at this moment in time. We've also had Mark Carroll, who's come in and said, "Evening, guys. Luke, I spoke with you on Sunday, Twitter space, and the Sutton game is make or break for Darren Sarll. One home goal, in 6, 4 straight defeats, and only scored in one game out of the last 7. Yeah, we spoke about Hartlepool quite a bit recently on the podcast, and we've kind of been talking about those stats, and every week they get even worse because they still don't score at home. And for me, overall, I stick to what I've said. I still believe that there's no way back for Dan Sarr now. I think they need to be appointing a new manager. I think he's got the quality there in that side, and he's not bringing the best out of it, particularly going forward with the amount of names that you've got, the likes of Mancini, the likes of Gray, the likes of Disaruwe, Gavin Medine. If you can't get goals out of that team, then I believe it's clear that it's the manager's fault and not the team overall. Well, what's your thoughts on that, Paul? I know it's something we've spoke quite a lot about recently, but I think you said last week, I don't think you said that you wanted the Hartlepool manager to be sacked at the moment. I think you said you need to give it a bit more time. Are you still sticking down that route, or do you personally feel overall now your mind's changed?
I mean, it was more just for the benefit of the club, the fans, the players having that continuity. But the stark reality of it is 4 losses in a row. Only Braintree have scored fewer goals in the league. Even Wealdstone and Ebbsfleet, who are in the bottom 4, have scored more goals than Hartlepool have. And you look at Maidenhead, who traditionally are not big scorers in the league, are they? They've scored the double amount of goals that Hartlepool have scored. So it's quite evident where the problem is for them. And for an example, against Wealdstone, they scored a 98th minute goal where the keeper's punted it down the middle and it's bounced once and the lads towed it in. I mean, there was absolutely no quality around it. It was a real pure desperation. Fair play to them, they got it. So they're not even, I don't think they're even probably being convincing in their performances across the board. So he definitely is on borrowed time, without a shadow of a doubt. Hartlepool cannot afford to go into the National League North. We've seen that their owners are fairly ruthless. I don't want to see people getting sacked, and I think that's more the point, just for that continuity purpose. But there's going to be a point where actually you need to sort of look at it and cut your losses. And who have they got on Saturday? They're at home to Sutton now. Sutton are capable of winning that game. I think it could be curtains for Darren Sarll.
I'd have to agree with you on that. Like I've said, I don't overall understand why they ever got rid of Phillips. I think he were building something there. I think he did okay towards the end of the season, worked with the squad that he actually had to his disposal. And I think if he'd have been given the summer to be able to recruit his own players like Darren Salas, who knows where Hartlepool could be now? Because I look at that side overall, and I think Hartlepool with the players, that should be in the playoffs. They should be one of the big hitters in the league, in my opinion. And to see them, I think, in 18th, is it at the moment, with only scoring one home goal in 7 games, is just very, very disappointing and underwhelming as well for Hartlepool fans at the moment. And I think there's still time for them to turn the season around, and I think they need to do it quickly and bring in a new manager. And that's the only way I can see Hartlepool getting back, because like I said, I do think the quality is there. We've had Cardinal Ultra, who's a working fan, said, great podcast, lads, thanks for tuning in. Bailey's coming and said, big up, lads, I went Villa last night, what a win, but hope Tamworth can win at the weekend. Yeah, you go to see Villa v Bayern Munich to see Tamworth v Halifax. A bit of a contrast there in the football matches that you're attending, but no, we love it. I think everyone who supports club in this division has had that in the past. You know, me and Paul have had that with England. We've gone from seeing us in a major final in Berlin to going to the Vale and the Shea. Yeah, it's a bit different, isn't it?
Oh, that a shadow of that. And I think it's brilliant that, you know, that, and we get a lot of it down at Wealdstone, where Stones are very well favoured by supporters, but they have their Premier League teams and they go and watch them as well. So, yes, that is a real contrast. What a game for Villa it was last night. That a very, very well taken goal. I mean, the roof sort of just took off at that ground. The atmosphere was electric, wasn't it? So, yeah, fair play to Villa, but I'm pretty sure you still probably enjoy Tamworth versus Halifax more when it really comes down to it.
Yeah, that away end at Halifax certainly. But no, something else I wanted to speak a bit about tonight was Ebbsfleet, a side who I believe currently sit bottom of the National League. They've appointed a new manager in Adam Watling, I believe. He's had a few games now. He's managed to get the first win of the season for them, but I think overall, maybe for him, he's not had the ideal start that he actually wanted, but it's something that we speak about, is the fact that he can only work with what he's got at the moment, and he's trying to rectify that by bringing in a bit of experience, and he's actually done that, bringing in Todd Kane, who I believe he's actually known in the past and worked with, or played with, I should say. He's actually got championship experience. He's quite experienced. He's actually an ex-England international at under-19s level. And then they also brought in Anthony Stewart, who I'm aware of a little bit more as well. Previously being at Wycombe, was well thought of there. Wycombe fans sung his praises as well. And he's actually captained Aberdeen in the past to play European football. So that just shows you the calibre of players that Ebbsfleet are recruiting now. And it's something that maybe Watling's got the ability to be able to do, is to be able to attract players who perhaps Ebbsfleet wouldn't have been able to attract if he wasn't there. And it just shows a manager coming from a higher level. It can work in a way at times.
It can, yeah. It's I think his name's Harry Watling, Luke, not Adam.
Yeah, Harry.
Yeah, I mean, again, a young up and coming coach, an academy coach. So, you know, if we talk about Gateshead looking at route, Ebbsfleet have gone that way. But clearly he'll know his players from the EFL and the academy, and there's absolutely nothing wrong in getting the likes of Stewart and Kane in. They're both players with a vast amount of experience who need a club, obviously still want to play, and that's going to do them no harm to have quality like that coming in and the experience, because clearly Ebbsfleet are lacking an awful lot at the moment at this level. And you just like to think that if they bring the likes of Anthony Stewart and Todd Kane in, who have played at that higher level, come from good clubs, played in, you know, both in Scotland and England, that they adapt to the National League and the toughness of it and the relentlessness of it and the fact that, you know, there's no easy games in this league. You've seen Ebbsfleet play Halifax and nick a win in the last minute with a penalty, purely because they probably didn't give up. And all clubs are the same. All clubs are the same. I don't think I've ever seen a National League game where a team is really, like in terms of ones I've seen, that a team really capitulates. You get the odd score, you know, the 7-1 that Gateshead lost to Dagenham. You get the odd score, but it's really, really unusual for teams to capitulate in this league, because it is tough. So players like that, and they probably haven't played that regularly since June, July, it's going to take them a bit of time to come up to speed, but they're certainly two good signings for Ebbsfleet at this stage of the season.
Yeah, that's something that, I'd agree with on that. And, you speak about the experience there. Obviously, they've got the worst defence in the league at this present time of recording, 25 goals against them. So they're clearly trying to rectify that by bringing in experienced players from higher levels. So, you'd like to think on paper, you look at that now, they've got the likes of Corden, who's proven in the past he's a good centre-half, Stewart and Kane. You'd like to think that they'll be able to improve defensively, because I think if they had that going into the season, everyone would say, well, Ebbsfleet should be quite strong defensively. Obviously, it's not worked out like that. The only concern for me is I still feel going forward, they're a little bit light up top. I think they're relying on Purlian for goals, and he's not been able to produce that this season. And also, we speak about defence. Yes, they're good, solid defenders, but everyone's complained about Corner being slow. A 34-year-old and I think a 32-year-old as well are not going to be the fastest centre-halves in the world. And that's something that perhaps Ebbsfleet will be a little bit concerned about, Ebbsfleet fans, perhaps? Or
yeah, the thing is, Luke, when you're at the bottom of the league or near the bottom of the league, and we obviously a bottom and they haven't been cut adrift yet, you got to become a little bit more pragmatic, and you got to set yourself up not to lose rather than try and maybe win a game until you get a bit more confidence, until you look at a match where actually this could be one we could win. So if you bring in players, Kane's a fullback, Stewart's a centre half. If you bring those players in, you've then got the opportunity to stop those goals, because I think that's what kept them up last year. They started to defend well and then cause you get a goal on the break, etc. So they've got to do that again. Yeah. And if they get their defence right and they stop goals going in, the least you do is get a 0-0 draw. So you then start to try and produce up top, you're then going to start nicking results. And I think, when you look at Oldham as an example now, I think you were just a little bit harsh on them about scoring goals there, Luke, because if you look at their results recently, the fact they're scoring 1-0, they're winning 1-0, winning 1-0, winning 2-1, because they're not letting goals in. So they don't have to go and score bundles of goals because their defence is so good. If your defence is really good, you don't have to score lots of goals. If you take the advantage of someone who can score goals, then it's even better. The likes of York, they've not hardly let any goals in, and they're scoring lots of goals. So they've got the real blend, and so the Barnet. And that's no secret as to why they're top of the league. Good in defence, good in attack. If you get one of those right, you're halfway to being a more solid team. And I think that's what Ebbsfleet have got to look at.
Like I've said with Oldham, it's not a case of them not being able to score goals. They haven't been as prolific as the likes of Barnet and Forest Green. And I look at that side, and when they came to the Shea, and I thought they're better than what I've seen in the past couple of seasons. But what I will say is, I didn't look at them and think they're title winners, them, if that makes sense. I said, this is a side that will probably make it inside the playoffs. Maybe in the playoffs they'll actually be able to adapt better because of the way they play. I think if, they finish 6th or 7th, where I personally feel that they're going to come this season, now when I'm recording this, it'll probably work to their favour in the playoffs. And I said this last season is because they'll be better away from home than what they are at home, I think, against the better sides in a way, because they'll go there and catch them on the break. And I think that's what Oldham are better at doing. I know this season they've got the capabilities to be able to play quite attractive football as well. But I personally look at Oldham and think they're more set up. And Mickey Mellon's the type of coach that will be set up to play against the better teams rather than the weaker teams. And we saw that at Ebbsfleet as well. Although it was a win, it wasn't the most comfortable of wins for Oldham. And this is against bottom of the league. And this just shows, in my opinion, that Oldham, the sort of team that will do better against the likes of your Forest Greens, like they have done against your Rochdales, probably against your Gatesheads, who they got a point of, and your Halifaxes, rather than being able to do well against the weaker teams as well. We're going to come back to the live chat, see what people have been saying. Bradley's come in as well and said, watched all Eastleigh's home games, more yellow cards for dissent than actual fouls. Is this the common thing across the National League? Well, Paul, I believe you watched the Halifax v Wealdstone game. I'm sure you can add your thoughts on officials after that one.
Yeah, we actually fell foul. One of our defenders got sent off rather after the game for dissent or foul and abusive language. Not sure which one it was. I think if you look at it across the board, from Premier League down, there appears to be a bit of a crackdown on on dissent and foul language towards the officials, especially. You see an awful lot of managers being yellow carded at the moment as well on the sidelines, not just the players. So I'm not suggesting for one minute that it's a bad thing. I think actually it's a good thing. I think there needs to be respect shown to the referees. As much as I really struggle to enjoy watching a referee and like referees, but they still need to be respected, and they are doing a tough job and they do make mistakes. I think we are at our level probably moan about the inconsistency, and I think I've spoken to a couple of National League players over the years, and they sort of say the same thing. They just want consistency out of these referees, but that still doesn't mean you can start going on calling them all sorts of names under the sun and being abusive. That doesn't really sort of help anybody. So the crackdown on it is good. It doesn't help when you have players sent off for those things, like we did on Saturday. And teams are going to suffer with suspensions going forward. If players get 5+, 10+ bookings, they're going to miss games. So they've got to start learning quite quickly.
David's coming and said, yes, 9:28 and Maidenhead mentioned by Paul. Even in all, we speak quite a bit about Maidenhead, I think, overall. Like we've said, they go along quietly with what they actually do. There's not very much often to talk about with Maidenhead because nothing seems to happen in a negative way or a positive way. Not a non-positive way, I should say. But, with the signs that they make, you look at them on paper and you think the squad will probably end up going down, and they always seem to survive. But I think for me overall with Maidenhead, there's just not much to really say on them at the moment because they're just looking like they're going to do what they usually do, and that's probably survive by the skin of their teeth.
I think you're probably right, Luke. 3 losses, and all of a sudden they look doomed, and they got 2 wins in the last 2. Boston and Ebbsfleet, teams around them. Like we spoke last week about this sort of mini league at the bottom. Teams have to start looking at who they can possibly get points from, and Maidenhead have worked that wonderfully. And what they do, and like we've always said, is that they'll then go to a Barnet, a Forest Green, a York, whoever it may be towards the top, and nick a result, a win or a draw where it's unexpected. So Alan Devonshire is an absolute master. Mm-hmm. That guy, if and when he retires, you should have the freedom of Maidenhead. There'll be a statue of him outside their ground, be it York Road or otherwise, because what he's done for that football club over these years is incredible.
Aaron's coming. Aaron Diskin has actually said, Luke hates Oldham, pass it on. I've backed him to win the last couple of weeks. Paul hasn't. Just joking. Keep up the good work, Luke and Paul, and congrats on the Blossoms ticket, Luke. See you there. Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I managed to bag a Blossoms ticket, I should say. I've been looking for the last couple of days, and it's been an entire sellout. So I managed to grab a ticket for Halifax. Obviously, Halifax are at home to York, so hopefully go and beat our Yorkshire rivals, and then straight after head to the Blossoms concert. So yeah, it should be a good one, that. And then M and S, I think that is MS or something. Oldham aren't the best team in the league, but we find a way and rarely lose. That's something I will agree with. They're a hard team to break down, very well organised, and I think, although I say I don't think you played the best at Ebbsfleet, something I will say about that game is the fact that you found a way to win. I think Ebbsfleet did equalise, didn't they? And Oldham managed to go on to win. So for me, overall, I think Oldham will find a way. And like I've said, I think they'll be inside the playoffs this season. Before we come on to our predictions and get into that, one final talking point that I want to talk about is the new National League Cup that everyone here has been so excited, and that everyone definitely attended on Tuesday night as well. In a total, across the entire division, the attendance was 2,301 on Tuesday night. I think that was across like 6 or 7 fixtures as well. It was sides actually broke records as well with the attendances in the wrong way, though. Halifax's worst ever attendance since they've reformed, Wokin's worst ever attendance, and Ebbsfleet's lowest ever attendance. And I believe, I didn't actually say this, but I'm sure that'll be Oldham's lowest ever attendance as well. So yeah, it's been a success, hasn't it, so far, Paul, like Mark Ives said it would be?
Yeah, I mean the propaganda put out on social media with the pictures of how many goals were scored and the exciting highlights. Yeah, clearly people are voting with their feet and they're not going, Luke. And unfortunately, Wealdstone weren't able to play. Their pitch was waterlogged. Even with new drainage, the amount of rain we've had down here in sort of in the northwest part of London has been quite tremendous. I think we've all suffered from it, and it was a shame that game couldn't be on, because I think what they were then hoping was that it would be playable for the under-18s FA Youth Cup match the next night. And I think if that was played, Wealdstone's game against Southampton Academy wasn't played. Therefore, you kind of look at it and think, where's the priorities even for someone like Wealdstone? And I could be wrong. It could be that the pitch was unplayable, and 24 hours later it was. But it's just what a nonsense cup. And I hadn't realised there's a ruling made that you have to play 4 players from the team that played the previous match or was going to play in the match going forward. So they're even now dictating to the National League teams part of their team selection, and the under-21s are allowed to have 2 or 3 overage players. So there's a chance you might see a Premier League squad player who's coming back from injury or out of favour playing these games, which may be a bit of a pull. But on the whole, I think the National League are having their they're the dog that's having their tail wagged by the EFL at the moment.
Yeah, we've spoke about it. I think we've probably given it too much airtime, to be honest. I think everyone here agrees with us that it's a bit of a farce. I think a lot of us would rather have FA Cup replays than have to attend, or well, you don't even have to attend, but have to put up with sides playing against Premier League under-21 sides as well. Like we've said, the attendances just suggest how many people are actually interested in. There isn't much of an uptake, so we'll move on from that. We're probably at a point to get on with the predictions then. Now, these are the scores on the doors, if I can get it up here. And I have to say, Paul, it's been a bad week for me overall. Quite a sad one as well, I will say, when I put the scores up in a second. So you've actually managed to take the lead for the first time, I think, in the 2 years we've actually done the Predictions League. You're buzzing with that?
Look at that, Luke. Look at that. Yeah. Well, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
1 week of fame.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm going to stay humble. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But I'm there above you at the moment. So, good week for me. Plus 7 points. 4's not bad. So, listen, it just makes it interesting for us, if not anybody else who's bothered about the scores that we do. But, when I messaged you the other night, I thought I got 7. I was happy with that.
Yeah, well, I don't, like I keep saying, I can't see me wearing a Rochdale shirt at the end of the season. Last season, you had to wear the Barnet one. Like I said, it was a good fit for you, so it'll be good to bring it back. A lot of the viewers enjoyed it. Let's hope I can retake the lead. To be fair, the last couple of weeks when I've actually thought about predicting the games and I've kind of analysed it, it's gone against me. So I think I'm going to change my mind now and just go with my heart rather than analysing it and put it from a I can't even say the word, a factual point of view. I can't say the actual word for that for some reason at the moment. But no, what doesn't help is when I get commentators on like Rob Worrell to actually help you out as well. That doesn't help.
Yeah. I have to thank Rob for the stepping in for that week. It certainly did bolster my points just a little bit. Listen, I'll thank Rob, but I'll still take the glory as it stands at the moment, though, Luke.
Statistical point of view. Did I say
there
it?
You go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
finally.
Well done.
Also, please remember to like and subscribe. Liking gets it out to more people, and subscribing grows the community even more. Like I've said, we're live every single Thursday from 9 p.m. It's good to get a lot of you guys in here who obviously get involved. what I'm quite proud of is the fact that it's very interactive. Can't get my words right tonight. So yeah, please subscribe to the channel. We'll get on with the predictions then. We've got a notice on here, so I'll have to get rid of that. And an advert, which doesn't help. But of course, if you look at the table at the moment, nothing's changed at the top. Barnet remain top. York sit second. Forest Green are in third at the moment, followed by Rochdale, Gateshead, Oldham, and Eastleigh, who make up the playoffs. I don't think SofaScore actually realises that only 7 teams make the playoffs, because it's got Sutton with Green around the number 8 to suggest that they're actually in the playoffs at the moment. But Sutton sit just outside of the playoffs. Altrincham have climbed up the table recently, have got some decent wins under their belt, beating Dagenham and then beating Tamworth away from home, followed by Dagenham, Halifax and Yeovil, who make the top half. Looking towards the bottom half at the moment, the likes of Solihull, Aldershot and Southend were sides with quite high expectations at the start of the season, but it's not been the ideal start for those guys. Tamworth going strong. We mentioned about them having a game in hand and how far they can climb up the table if they do win that. I think they can go up to 12th if they win that game in hand, if they win the game in hand. Hartlepool sit 18th. We talk about the most underwhelming side so far this season. I think if I was to put someone down, Hartlepool would be the team for me, because I've got quite high expectations for them. And then you've got Maidenhead, Braintree, Boston, who are currently just above the drop zone. And then, no, Boston are in the drop zone, sorry. SofaScore have made another mistake there. Boston, Fylde, Wealdstone and Ebbsfleet currently sit in the bottom 4. Wealdstone, 2 points adrift of safety at the moment. Do you think you'll be able to get out of it then, Paul, after that point at Halifax?
Yeah, listen, I'm still hopeful. I think we're still waiting on 2 or 3 players to come back from injury, and Matt Taylor being close to hopefully picking his best 11. It's really tough. It's a really tough league. Like I said, we need to stop letting goals in. I think at one point, I think it was on Saturday, we were fifth or sixth from bottom, and then you let a goal in and you're second from bottom. That's how much you can change just by 1 goal. So, yeah, I think we just got to be a bit more consistent, turn those draws into wins and those losses into draws a little bit, and then hopefully we'll start creeping up. But I think we just got to look at those teams around us and hope that we can gain something from them.
Lee and Bradley have actually come in and said, go on, Paul, and get in there. I'm not liking this, guys. Paul's got decades of football and experience on me. I'm 17-year-old, and Paul's buzzing about taking the lead. So no, I'm not liking this at all. But no, we'll get on to the predictions then now. Round 13, starting things off then with AFC Fylde versus Aldershot Town then. Think a fixture for me where both sides last season scored quite a good number of goals. So far this season, I think for both sides, they would have liked to have scored more. Fylde, of course, we keep mentioning it every week, rely on one man in particular to score a lot of the goals. Did they score? I can't remember if Fylde actually scored last Saturday or not, because if they did, I would have thought it'd be Nick Horton who got the goal for them. For this one, though, I think Aldershot will have a slight bit too much for them, and I'm actually going to go for a 2-1 Aldershot win. How do you see it going, Paul?
Fylde lost to Barnet 2-0, so no, they didn't score last week. But I've gone for a 1-1 draw because I think, like you said, when I looked at it, and I did look at them there a little bit more, they're not massive scorers, either of them. So I've gone with a 1-1 draw for that one.
Everyone, people who are coming in, please put your predictions in as well. People so far have gone for 2-1 Aldershot, 2-1 Fylde, and 2-1 Fylde as well. Keep your predictions coming in, guys. Next game then, Barnet versus Boston. Barnet going strong, top of the tree at the moment. Boston currently still in the bottom 4. Maybe a bit of a banana skin for Barnet. Of course, Boston have taken points off some half-decent teams so far this season. But personally, I think going into this, you can only see one result overall, and I think everyone will be backing Barnet to win. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Barnet win. How do you see it going?
I've gone with 3-0. I think you're right, Luke. As much as the effort that Boston will put in, and and they'll probably try and get amongst Barnet and press them and stop them. And they're tough and physical. Boston, coming from the National League North last year, very honest side from all accounts. As long as Barnet stick to their game plan, the quality will come through. And I think you're right. I think Barnet will easily win. I've gone with 3-0 rather than 3-1, but it'll be a decent result for them. I think if they get 3 or 4 goals.
You speak about Boston, and I speak about being a bit of a banana skin. You look at some of the wins, the likes of beating York away from home, the only side to actually, I think, defeat York so far this season, defeating Sutton as well away from home, getting a point at Altrincham after being 2-0 down. So maybe it's not out of the question for Boston to get something from this game. But I think if Barnet turn up on the day, you'd think Barnet will be able to pull through in this one. I'm actually going to go for a 3-1 Barnet win. Next game then, Braintree versus Altrincham. Got a big win for them against Halifax before then losing to Rochdale away from home. But kind of not conceding as many recently. Clean sheet against Halifax. They've only actually conceded 2 goals in the last 3 games. I think this will be a bit of a difficult one for Altrincham. At the moment, a side that I'm always seem to be backing to lose or drop points. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. How do you see it going?
I've gone for a 3-1 win for Altrincham. They're starting to get their act together a little bit, be a bit more consistent. Braintree haven't been consistent. And listen, they've done well to get a result against Halifax, as much as it probably pains you, to when you're down the bottom, to get a 90th minute penalty and to win it that way. They don't care. They just want that win, and they need to start putting it similar to any of these bottom sides that I talk about, converting losses to draws to wins. So they may well have been playing well enough to get more results. It's not happening. I can't see it on Saturday. Altrincham are a good side, and like I said, I think they're victims of their own success last season. They're underachieving maybe this season, but I think they'll win on Saturday 3-1.
Speak about them underachieving. They're quickly climbing up the table, up to 9th at this time now, and they're actually only 3 points off the playoffs. So they could be in the playoffs come 5 o'clock on Saturday.
Eastleigh 1 in 4, the one in the last 5, haven't they? So you've got to look at that. Give them a bit of credit.
Eastleigh versus Forest Green then. Every week, like we keep mentioning, we speak about games that could be games of the game week, 3rd versus 7th at the moment. Both sides score a fair amount of goals. Forest Green have got 20 at the moment, and Eastleigh have got 19. I think I'm going to go for a high-scoring game for this one, and I'm actually going to go for a 2-2 draw. That's ironic, that dropping out then. But as you can tell, it's the featured match as well. How do you see it going?
I've gone for exactly the same result, Luke. I've gone with 2-2. I think you're right. They're both capable of scoring goals. Forest Green are very miserly in defence. They've only let 9 in their 12 games, which is less than 1 a game, and 2 of those came in 1 game against Wealdstone. So they've got to be grateful for their start in terms of their defence. I think what Forest Green haven't shown is maybe that level of consistency that Barnet have and that York have. And as for instance, Forest Green they go and drop some points against Oldham, which is no disgrace, but you want to be putting more green on there than anything else when you look at those results. I don't think that will happen Saturday. I think Eastleigh, as been stated, they're a very tidy, tough side to play against, and another one of those with the manager that they went and got sort of from left field. It wasn't an academy as such, but they went and got a manager from left field, and he's doing very well for them, very understated. They're a bit like Maidenhead towards the top end of the table, Eastleigh are, aren't they, in that sort of sense that they just plod along and not a lot said about them. And I think they'll cause Forest Green problems on Saturday, and they'll give them a 2-2 draw.
Still unbeaten at home as well, Eastleigh, as well this season, which is quite good for them so far. 3rd best home record in the division. Forest Green, we speak about them being good defensively. They're actually very strong away from home. They're the best side away from home. So it does have the potential to be a very mouth-watering match, this one. We'll move on to the next game then, which is, of course, Ebbsfleet versus Rochdale. We speak about Ebbsfleet adding quality during the week. They're playing against a quality side in Rochdale, who currently sit 4th in the division at the moment. Got a win against Braintree. Went on a bit of a had one or two bad defeats, didn't they? And they managed to pull back now, get back to winning ways, winning the last two, winning a total of 3 in the last 5 with 2 defeats in there. You see Ebbsfleet so far this season, and you've seen what's concerning for me so far is you've seen the likes of Oldham go there, not play well and still managing to win. You see the likes of Halifax go in there, not playing well and still managing to win. And that shows to me a poor side when you're not managing to pick points up against sides that are underperforming against you in the division. For me, overall, we speak about Ebbsfleet adding a bit of depth and quality at the back. I still feel Rochdale will have a little bit too much. I'm going to go for another 1-0 Rochdale win. How do you see it going?
I've gone for a 2-0 win. And when you look at that stat, Oldham scoring every game, Rochdale have been in the last 5 have done exactly that. And even when they lost, they've scored 1 against Solihull. They've scored 2 against Eastleigh. Did they? Okay, they shipped 4, and like we said, Eastleigh scored a lot of goals. So they're capable of scoring goals, and if you can be defensively very good, then you're going to be where they are in 4th. They've only let 9 goals in. They've scored 20, same record as Forest Green. So I think they're going to have too much for Ebbsfleet. Ebbsfleet, as much as they've signed a couple of defenders, like I said before, though, Luke, are they match fit? Are they ready to go? How much football have they played? That's a real test for them to have to come up against the likes of Taran Alarakia and the lad who's scoring lots of goals. He's gone out of my head. He was
Cairo Mitchell.
So I wouldn't suggest they're the sort of players you want to come up against if it's your first experience of the National League. So yeah. I think Rochdale are going to be too strong for Ebbsfleet and they'll win 2-0.
Move on to the next game. My side are back in action against Tamworth, who, like I've mentioned, if they do win the game in hand, and I think if they win it 5-0, is it 5-0? I think it has to, 5-0, I believe, against us. 9-0 they actually have to win to go above us. I can't see that happening, although I'm not very, I'm quite pessimistic going into this game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for me. Like I've said, I think we've proven in the last couple of games we're not doing well against the sides in the bottom half who are coming to us and setting up to sit deep and play us on the break, and that's what the likes of Braintree and I believe Wealdstone did, and I think Tamworth will do the exact same. They're simply quite a big and physical side that will play for the percentages and set pieces, and I can't see us with this game, to be honest. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. How do you see it going, Paul?
I have gone for a low-scoring game. I have put Halifax to win 1-0. So they're likely to lose, Luke, because I've predicted...
You backed us to win against your side as well, and we didn't.
I know. I do apologise. I think I saw enough in the highlights. Listen, Halifax peppered Wealdstone's goal in that second half. I know Wealdstone had 10 men and Sam House made a few good saves, etc. But I think Halifax have got to be a bit more positive around this game. Tamworth are new to the league. They've settled in quite well, but going somewhere like Halifax at the Shea is not an easy gig for anyone, especially a new team. And I think Halifax, although they're not potent, they'll do enough to win 1-0.
Yeah, Bailey, who's a Tamworth fan, has said 1-1. And someone else has gone for 1-1 there as well. We'll move on to the next game then now. Gateshead versus Wealdstone. Although it might not look it based on the table, this could actually be one of the games of the game week. A Wealdstone side who've picked up as of late in a way, getting a point against Southend and a point against Halifax, coming up against the Gateshead side who've just lost their manager. Like you've mentioned earlier, it's a good time to be playing Gateshead for a Wealdstone fan this season. Can I see you getting the result? No, I think the Gateshead side is still there. They haven't got the same manager, but they've still got the same players at this moment in time. And I think Gateshead will be able to get the job done. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Gateshead. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I've gone for the same, Luke. I think you're right. It's possibly a good time to play with no manager. The continuity they've got with the temporary management team they put in is going to help them. 2 good footballing sides. It's on paper that's a good match to go and watch if you want to see some good football. I think Gateshead will just take advantage of Wealdstone's lack of I don't know, quality, decisiveness, concentration at the back. Wealdstone have got a couple of players suspended. Mariappa, the captain who got sent off against Halifax, will be suspended.
When you need experience, you lose him.
Yeah, Jaden Mundle-Smith, who's come back after, player of the season last season's come back after injury. He's going to be suspended. So we're a couple short at the back as it is. And that doesn't bode well when you play Gateshead, who on their day going forward can be quite dangerous. So unfortunately, head rules the heart here, and I've gone with Gateshead 2, Wealdstone 1.
Hartlepool versus Sutton. Then you actually look at Hartlepool at the moment. There, it's just popped up. 4 losses in the last 5. It's not been good for Hartlepool so far this season. They've scored 1 goal at home all season, which actually came against your boys, Wealdstone. I'm going to back Sutton to win this game 1-0. And you've mentioned there about Sal being sacked. Honestly, I would have thought he'd have been sacked by now. But if they lose this game, you'd like to think that the Hartlepool owner will be looking to make a change. And I think Sutton will be able to go in and get the result. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Sutton win. How do you see it going?
I've gone with a 3-1 Sutton win. I think, like you said, they're just gonna be too strong for Hartlepool. Hartlepool they've really got to show some mettle now, and they've got to give a response to that if they want that manager still there and play for him. They've only got their records just as bad as Braintree's. 1 win in the last 5 with 4 losses, and the worrying thing for Hartlepool is the 4 losses have come in a row, and I don't think that will change on Saturday. I think Sutton have just brought in Alex Kirk, another really good defender with the Arsenal Academy, who was on loan at Bromley last season. So clearly they're in a position to strengthen. The demographic of Sutton's team is one that I think is the opposite to Hartlepool's. It's young, vibrant. They'll be busy. They'll be hard-working. Hartlepool, I just don't think we'll have an answer for Sutton on Saturday, even though they are at home. And I think you're right. You might see the end of Darren Sarr at the end of that game, and I think Sutton will win 3-1.
Next game then, Oldham versus Solihull Moors. I said I'll go with my heart this week. And I'm just going to go for an Oldham draw for this game. Like I said, I look at Solihull so far this season. It's like they've not got going. They get a good win and then they can't get any momentum going. And you look at the side and you think they should probably be higher up the table. A little bit like Hartlepool, but not to as a significant extent. I think Oldham being at home, like I said, I can't see them winning every game. I still think they're going to remain unbeaten. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this one. How do you see it going?
I've gone with 2-0 to Oldham. They're finding ways to win. I think you're right. When you said before, not the most attractive, probably not the best side, but there's games this season that Oldham have won that they would have lost last year without a shadow of a doubt. And that just shows the mentality of the squad, maybe the mentality of Mickey Mellon, just knowing what is required to do well in this league. And you haven't got to play teams off the park. You haven't got to be the best football inside every week. We saw it with Wrexham, with all due respect to Wrexham, when they were coming up against Notts County. Notts County were the best football inside in the league. Everyone loved Notts County. Wrexham crashed the ball forward, set plays, restarts, dead balls, etc. That's where they took advantage. And I'm not suggesting that's how Oldham play, but that's what you've got to look at, is there's more than one way to skin a cat. And if you're going to win games and win this league, you need to win when you're not playing well. You need to grind out results, a bit like Barnet have done the same. And I think Oldham will make Boundary Park a fortress, and that will continue on Saturday, and they'll win 2-0 against Solihull.
I agree when you say everyone hated Wrexham because of the style of football they played, but also a big thing was because they actually were Welsh as well, and Notts County were English. That was probably the main reason that everyone wanted Notts County to win the title. Let's be honest here. But no, we'll move on from that then. The next game then, Southend versus Maidenhead. Probably not the most attractive of games this game week. Southend, like we've said, have not really got going so far this season. Maidenhead have picked up back-to-back wins now, which I think actually put them out of the drop zone at the moment. Like I said, I always feel like I still go into this game thinking, well, Southend must be favourites. It's a difficult place to go, Southend, but it's not really been a difficult place for sides to go to this season, Roots Hall. A lot of sides have managed to pick results up there. Saying that, like I said, I still think Southend will be able to win this game. It's more my gut feeling. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Southend win. How do you see it going?
I've actually gone for a Maidenhead win. I feel Southend are really, they were very pretty the other night against Wealdstone, but they just weren't threatening. They little bit toothless, frustrating. I think if you're a Southend fan, listen, they're at Roots Hall. Maidenhead are going to Roots Hall, and there's going to be a few thousand people there, and hopefully they're still backing Kevin Mayer and Darren Curry and what have you. And there's no sort of discontent there too much. They will get their act in order. They're having to deal with an awful lot over the last couple of seasons, and sometimes these things happen. But I think it's one of those results Maidenhead will pull out of the bag where you don't expect them to, and I've gone for a Maidenhead win 2-1.
Next game, then, Dagenham versus Yeovil. And I think if you were to define two mid-table sides at the moment who I don't think either have actually been inside the playoffs this season, or at least after the first 5 games, but neither's actually been in the drop zone this season. Dagenham sit 10th at the moment and Yeovil sit 12th for this one. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Yeovil just don't score enough goals. And are quite good defensively, aren't they? For a National League South team, admittedly they won it quite easy last year, and they're set up to be an EFL team in the future. I would imagine. They're certainly not. They certainly don't come from the same sort of roots as the likes of Tamworth and maybe Boston, if you like, in the recent history. So. Yeah, Mark Cooper's a wily old soul. He knows what's needed to win leagues in the National League levels, be it South, North, or sort of the top league. So I've gone for a 1-1 draw. They need to start addressing their goal scoring. Dagenham had a bit of a wretched start, but have really improved, haven't they? And picked up some good results. But they don't score bundles themselves. Aside from winning 7, I get it, where they won 7-1 against Gateshead, which was a real anomaly. But obviously, they're not scoring goals a lot week in, week out. So I've gone with a 1-1 draw.
I think Dagenham will get this one. I'm going to go for a Dagenham. I'm actually going to go for a Dagenham. I'll go for a 1-0 Dagenham win. The forward liner, Dion Pereira, Junior Moraes, I think will have a little bit too much. Will be able to break down Yeovil, who are good defensively, but so are Dagenham, to be fair. 13 goals they conceded so far this season, which is quite a respectable number of goals against them, you'd say. I'm going to back Dagenham to win this game 1-0. Next game we'll have a look at then is the final game, which will be on DAZN, Woking versus York. I think Woking are a side for me that have scored a fair amount of goals so far this season in a way, but have also probably conceded a fair few on a game-to-game basis. They've been involved in a few high-scoring games so far this season, and maybe this is my freak result of the game week that might come off like the Aldershot Maidenhead one did. I have to add that in there, but I'm going to go for a 3-2 York win. How do you see it going?
I've gone for a 2-0 York win. I think anyone who's going to watch this, have the ability or want to watch this on the television, will probably get to see York for the first time if they've not seen themselves against the team that they support. And, I certainly will be looking at this game with interest and watching York, because they seem to be very good at both ends of the pitch, if not quite as consistent as the likes of Barnet at this stage. But to be only 2 points behind, scored 18 and I've only let 6 goals in the whole season. That's half. Averages half a goal a game. That's a decent record. And like we said, Luke, if you can get one end of your pitch sorted out, you're in a better chance to winning games. And to let in less than 1 goal a game average is unbelievable. When you think Barnet have let 11 in, and they're top of the league, York know what's needed to win games, and this will be a really good game for them, a good test, because Woking aren't having the best time off the field, but they showed a good start. They faltered in the last 4. They haven't won in the last 4, and I think this will be, the 5th game in a row. They're not going to get any point. Not going to get a win, rather. So I think York will win 2-0, but I don't think it will be easy for York.
I know Woking, it's been rumoured that they're actually going to have a takeover, so I do hope for their sake that they do have a takeover this season, because I think within the squad, there's certainly individuals there for me that I think are good National League individuals. They've done better than I thought they would have done at the start of the season so far, and I think if they can have an ownership change over the course of the season, that's when they can actually push on. Because, like I said, I think they've done pretty well so far, considering the circumstances that they're actually under at the moment. But nothing less, more or less rounds up the podcast tonight. Please like and subscribe, everyone. Like I've mentioned, liking gets it out to more people, and subscribing grows the community even more. I do apologise, Paul. I did forget to actually shout out the travel.
No, don't worry, you're all right.
League. That's it there if you want to give a plug.
Yeah, no, any travel requirements, come give me a shout. I'm sure I can help you. I know I'm helping one of our listeners out at the moment with a trip that he's trying to organise. So, please, any holiday requirements, your package holidays with TUI, EasyJet, etc., we can do at no extra cost to you, and we can look after all your booking needs. So, give us a shout. And obviously, Luke, when you go to the White Hart again, you'll be coming to see me, won't you?
Yeah, certainly will be doing. Also, please check out our actual channel sponsors cards accepted. There'll be a link in the description for you to do that. You'll get 50% off your card machine if you use that link. No contracts or monthly fees. And a few of our listeners have actually gone to them in the past, so we do appreciate it when you do use them. Also, if you want to become a channel member as well, if you're on a MacBook or even a computer of some sort, you can join the channel. I think you have to go on the YouTube app or something a little bit different if you're on a phone to become a channel member, but it's just £2.99 a month. You get to use custom emojis in the live chat for your club, and also you're going to get early access to interviews in the future. I've been Luke, this is Paul. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in tonight, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.